Hey everyone, what is up? Welcome into my review of Pokemon Arceus Legends for the Nintendo Switch. This is a brand new Pokemon game that just recently released, and I'm going to give my opinion on this game. I am someone who started with the original Pokemon games, Gen 1, Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, and I'm going to be giving my honest thoughts on this game. And I will start off right off the bat by saying I feel like Pokemon Arceus Legends, it's not a terrible game, but it is very mediocre, and it doesn't fix a lot of the problems I have with many of the other mainline Pokemon games. Right off the bat, the first problem with Pokemon Arceus Legends is that the game has a very slow start. It has a very slow start to the game. In the first hour of the game, I was streaming the gaming so I could see for how long the stream I'd gone. In the first hour of the game, the entire game was just story scenes, talking, and then walking around in tutorials. There was 2 battles in the entire first hour of the game. The game has one of the slowest starts to a Pokemon game or any game I have ever seen. The beginning of the game is so incredibly slow. So we covered the first problem, which is that Pokemon Arceus Legends is a very slow start. Now let's get into problems number 2 and 3 with the game. So now the next problems with Pokemon Arceus Legends are that the battle system is almost the exact same as it's been in every other Pokemon game. The battle system is still 1v1, it's turn-based. The only other difference is that you now have what's called a fast style, which is called the agile style, and then also a strong style. The strong style can delay your turns, but it does more damage, and it uses more power points. Meanwhile, the agile style can get you 2 turns in a row, but it does less damage with the attack when you use that style. The reality is, though, while the style system that you can do in battles changes the combat a little bit, the truth at the end of the day is that the battles are still mostly the same they've been in every other Pokemon game. 95% of the fights in the game, the key to winning the fight is have a Pokemon with an attack that hits the enemy Pokemon's weakness, use that attack, and then one-shot the enemy Pokemon. That is 95% of the battles in this game. So, for example, if you're fighting a Fire-type Pokemon, you get a Water-type Pokemon ready to go, you hit them with a water attack, and the fire type Pokemon dies in one hit. The battles are way too easy in this game, and it just comes down to hitting the enemy Pokemon with their weakness and pretty much one-shotting them most of the time. It's way too easy, it's way too repetitive, it's the same strategy for every single fight in the game almost. Almost every single battle in the game can be won the same exact way in Pokemon Arceus Legends. Just hit the enemy Pokemon's weakness. So not only is the combat itself too easy, but another problem with the game that makes it way too easy is the EXP share. Once again, they have forced EXP share onto the player, and you cannot turn the EXP share off, and that is something that makes the game way easier. EXP share makes Pokemon way too easy because it allows all your Pokemon to stay around the same level and constantly be leveled. And then, because of EXP share making all your Pokemon stay around the same level, you're never going to have those battles where you had to use an under-leveled Pokemon like in the older Pokemon games before EXP share was something that was forced and affected all Pokemon. Those battles where you had to fight with an under-leveled Pokemon and you were like, wow, this is really close, I'm barely winning this, I don't know if I can even win this fight. And it comes down to a super close fight because you have to use a Pokemon that is under-leveled because maybe your other Pokemon got knocked out. Those types of situations are completely gone in Pokemon Arceus because all your Pokemon are pretty much around the same level, and you never get those really close battles like you did in the older Pokemon games where sometimes a Pokemon was a much lower level and you had to use them to win the fight. And because of that, the game is way easier in Pokemon Arceus Legends. Another problem with Pokemon Arceus Legends is that on the Switch, recently there has been a lot of monster collecting RPG games that have been released. And so Pokemon Arceus Legends has a lot of competition. Recently there was Shin Megami Tensei V that was released, and then before that there was Monster Hunter Stories 2. And I can tell you Shin Megami Tensei V, in terms of the battle system in that game, there's a lot more depth to the battle system in that game than in Pokemon Arceus Legends. Shin Megami Tensei V, you can battle with up to 3 monsters at once and then the main character. So you have 4 people you can fight with at once in battle. In Pokemon, we still have only 1v1 combat. They took out the 2v2 battles completely, so they removed that feature from Pokemon Arceus Legends. What they did in Pokemon Arceus Legends instead was they made it so that with your one Pokemon, you sometimes have to battle multiple enemy Pokemon at once. What I mean by this is basically this. Let's say you're out exploring around and you see a wild Pokemon. You throw your Pokemon at it to go battle it. All of a sudden, another enemy Pokemon might be nearby, And then what ends up happening is instead of having a fair 1v1 battle where you have your own one Pokemon versus one other Pokemon, instead you get two Pokemon fighting against your one Pokemon at once, and that gives the enemy a completely unfair advantage. And ultimately, when it comes down to the battle system of Pokemon Arceus Legends, it pales in comparison to its competition. Shin Megami Tensei V has a way better battle system than Pokemon Arceus Legends does. And ultimately with Arceus, the battle system is not as good as other monster collecting RPG games like Shin Megami Tensei V or Monster Hunter Stories 2. In those games, you can battle with more monsters at once, and there's also more strategy to the combat system in those games. Not only that, but there's other monster collecting RPGs out there like Digimon Cyber Sleuth or Dragon Quest Monsters, which have a lot more strategy. And really, Pokemon Arceus Legends, it just doesn't innovate. It's really mostly the same combat system with the small change they made by adding the style system to the game. And it's still 1v1. And meanwhile, the competition out there, other monster collecting RPGs offer much better battle systems than Pokemon Arceus Legends does. Now, I have mostly covered the really bad stuff in the game. Let me talk about some good stuff to be fair to the game, because Pokemon Arceus Legends, it does do some good stuff. First off, the story is pretty enjoyable. The characters are pretty likable, so in terms of the story, the game's pretty decent in terms of the story and the storytelling in the game. Another really great thing about the game is the open world exploration. So to explain how the game plays, you have 5 major areas in the story of the game, and they're these big open areas. You can run around them and you get Pokemon that you can ride. Some of them can fly, some of them can swim. So because of all that cool stuff they added to the traveling in the game, there's a lot of really cool ways to explore the big open areas, and the exploration is actually the best aspect of Pokemon Arceus Legends. In addition, another great change they made is that you can control manually when you want a Pokemon to evolve. So the game will let you know that a Pokemon can evolve, and then you can choose to evolve them anytime you want. Now, in terms of traveling through the game, like I mentioned, there's 5 big open areas. You go to the areas, you do the story objectives, and then at the end of each area, there's a big boss fight against the lord of that area that you have to do. And the boss fights in the game, I think, are another really good thing. They made it a hybrid of action RPG and turn-based RPG. So during the boss fight, you basically have to run around, dodge attacks, and do rules to dodge attacks, and then you throw these bombs at the boss, and basically the boss's health bar lowers. After a certain amount of time in the fight, or after certain attacks, the boss will be vulnerable. You can throw a Pokemon at them, and then you go into the turn-based aspect of it. If you do enough damage, you can stun the boss, and then get a chance to throw a bunch of bombs at them to lower their health. I thought the action RPG boss fights were a lot of fun. The action RPG parts of the boss fights were the only part I game overed on in the game, and I never game overed on the turn-based battles parts of the game. So for me, I actually really enjoyed the action RPG boss fights because it provided a much greater challenge than the regular turn-based battles of the game. And because of that, that was a really big highlight of this game for me. And I feel like I would like to see that in future Pokemon games. Overall, the 2 really great things about Pokemon Arceus are the open world exploration and the boss fights. Now let's go back to covering some more flaws, and now I'm going to give my overall opinion on this game. The next flaw to mention with Arceus is the alpha Pokemon. So they're like these stronger versions of Pokemon that you see randomly in areas. And basically they're supposed to be like these elite, super tough monsters that are really tough to capture. But the reality is these Pokemon are super easy to catch. I caught one throwing 2 Great Balls that won a level 70 Machamp that was way higher level than any of my Pokemon. And they really hype up the alpha Pokemon to be like super tough to catch and super tough to defeat, and they're not. They're way too easy. Last flaw of Pokemon Arceus Legends before we get to the overall score. The music in this game is much weaker compared to other Pokemon games. Even Pokemon Sword and Shield, for how disappointing that game was, it had a much better soundtrack. The only song I can really recall that was memorable in the game was during the first area of the game. You go to this forest area, and there's a remix of the Gen 4 forest area theme. And I really liked that song, but outside that, none of the music was really all that memorable, and the soundtrack was very lacking in this game. Overall, my opinion on Pokemon Arceus Legends is that the game is very mediocre. It's simply way too easy. 95% of the battles, you just hit an enemy Pokemon's weakness, you one-shot them, it's way too easy. The game has a very slow start. It takes 1 hour of just story scenes and 2 battles before you get to really start playing the game. The story in the game is decent, and the music is very unmemorable. The game overall just does not change that much with the battling of Pokemon, and the combat is the big weakness of this game. Other monster collecting RPGs like Shin Megami Tensei V or Monster Hunter Stories 2 offer a much better combat system that has a lot more strategy to it than this game. Even for me, as someone who I've been a longtime Pokemon fan, I started with Gen 1, Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow on the Game Boy Color. I was immensely disappointed with this game. If you're somebody who has been on the fence about buying this game, and you're somebody who has stopped enjoying Pokemon because it's been too easy in the past few games, this game is not going to change your mind. The combat is still the same for the most part, and it's still way too easy. Game Freak needs to put in a hard mode difficulty, or needs to make the games harder. Overall, my recommendation is not to buy Pokemon Arceus Legends. I would instead recommend Shin Megami Tensei V for people out there looking for a good monster collecting RPG game. It has a far better combat system than Pokemon Arceus Legends, and it's a way better game overall. As always, I want to say a big thank you to everybody for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also make sure to follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Shockstorm. Give me a follow on the Twitch channel and check out the stream. I'd really greatly appreciate it. Thank you for watching the review, and everyone have a great rest of the day.